and thank you for joining the Don't Stop the Education series from the Sennheiser Sound Academy. I'm here again with my co-host Andy Edgerton from the Relationship Management team, and today we'll be focusing on live sound and theater in Asia. With that, we have a couple extra guests from Sennheiser today who will be helping us host this event, and that's Mohammed Zoul and Faz Salleh. And we thank you all for joining us today, and we thank our guests from Asia for being with us as well. With that, I would like to turn this over to Faz to introduce the guests that we have with us today.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, now we can. Hi,
Okay,
Faz.
sorry
Hello,
for
how are
that.
you?
Hey, I'm fine. Very well. Glad you can make it. Right, let me introduce Jeffrey Yue from Control Freak. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hello.
And then we have Justin Tan from J5. Hey, Justin.
Hi,
And
Vas.
we have another Justin here, Justin Santos from all the way from Philippines.
Hi guys.
And then we have Mr. Sunil Kumar from Malaysia.
Hello,
Right,
hi.
he's staying in the highland mountains of Malaysia. You can see the background there.
Wow.
Very nice.
Really hope so, yeah.
And then we have Reuben. Hi, Reuben Ong from Singapore.
Hi
Okay.
everyone.
So, we can start now. I hope you guys are all ready. Team or Andy, you have anything else to say, or you want to introduce yourself first?
Hi there.
Before we
Yeah,
start?
I'm Andy Edgerton. I'm hiding behind the logo up here. Oh, there we go. I can start my video now. There we go. Hello. Yeah, I'll be fielding the questions. So if the participants want to ask any questions, I'll be sorting through those, and we can direct them towards the guests. So please, any questions you have, please type them in the Q&A box, and I'll make sure that we get them to the guests. Over to Tim.
No, I think as far as the intro, I'm ready to go to turn over to you, Faz, to take us from here. But I'll be jumping in as well with Andy to answer some questions and ask some questions from time to time.
Okay, cool. Right, let's start now. I have some question here with me, and I will direct to each and every one of you. Well, we can share whatever your experience is. Maybe you want to do a soft introduction about yourself first, and what you really do in the industry. Maybe we can start with Sunil.
Sure. All right, so I was born in Johor Bahru, actually, right next to Singapore. 50 years ago in January, guys, just so you know. I'm probably the oldest guy here. Moved to KL after high school. Finished high school, then I studied electronics because that time, sound engineering wasn't a thing, man, in KL, in Malaysia. So that was like the closest thing I could find. I started working as a roadie and a tech before joining a jingle studio. Then did many years as a freelancer on theatrical productions and corporate shows before I started getting gigs with artists, and then started doing their corporate shows and their concerts. Soon after that, I was actually given a really good gig. I was given an opportunity by IMG artists to join the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra, where I got training with Abbey Road and Neve engineers for classical music recording and so on and so forth. So solid gig. Can't tell you how much I learned in that couple of years. Carry it with me till today. A couple years later, so after a while, IMG and Petronas, the owners, split up. So I started my own studio for a while before I decided I needed a career change. So I joined a brand new TV station at that time called 8TV. It was run by a lot of music people, which I knew. And so ended up being executive producer for like Malaysian Idol, So You Think You Can Dance, Shout Awards, created a couple of reality shows like Showdown and Best in the World and stuff like that. So quite a varied stuff going on in those years. That was 13 years in that line. In the meantime, I still found time to do what I love most: mix albums, go on gigs. I took a lot of gig holidays on jazz festivals, and so all over the world. And now I'm basically doing a cert in computer science because something else to learn, and running a consultancy that deals with content production, event production, and AV design. And that's where I am right now.
Wow, what a journey.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sunil. So maybe now we will have Justin Santos from the Philippines from Force Inc. You want to introduce yourself and say what
All
you
right.
do?
Hi guys.
Maybe you're the youngest one around, right?
I know, right? So yeah, I'm only 27.
Wow.
So yeah, let me start. So I got off in the music industry. I think when I was in college, I was a business major at the time, but I joined this organization that helped artists do small gigs. Having a father who has a rental company, like I was exposed to how things go as far as setup goes. So it was like, okay, how about I help these artists out with their local productions, their local gigs. Um, from there I graduated college, but I felt like I wasn't ready for like the corporate world. I loved music so much, and what I did was I took a big leap. um I went to the States. I went to the States to study sound engineering because over here in Asia the options for education are very limited. So I studied in Full Sail. I spent 2 years there, and then I moved back here in the Philippines. Having been back for like a few months, I started learning the ropes, how things are done here, what kind of productions happen here, and I try to apply whatever I learned in the States into the local processes because it's very different actually. So it took some time for me to adjust to that. But now it's been around 4 years, and I can say like I'm totally immersed in whatever we're doing here in the Philippines right now, and I'm loving it. Yeah.
Wow. You're a lucky man. I wish I had a dad who have a lot of things, a gadget to play around. uh, right. Maybe now we have Jeffrey. Jeffrey, you please introduce yourself.
Hello, hello, hi. Yes. Uh where do I start? Primary school? No, 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 kidding. So, I guess I'm from Singapore. How I started this is okay. Let's say pretty typical kind of like Singaporean kind of like ways of growing up, studying, going to school, but in a interesting way, just like Justin. There wasn't much opportunity that's outside of the kind of like standard norm of what you can study in Singapore. So kind of like went the other way around as Sunil. Yeah, I actually did a computer science degree. So I was doing computer science in NUS ages ago. I'm not as young as Justin and not as old as Sunil. So I didn't know why. I didn't know how come this like age thing came to play. I think it's Sunil's fault.
Sorry,
But it's
my
okay.
fault, my fault.
But it's okay. So then a great opportunity came out. That's when Esplanade was building. Esplanade is this multi-venue theater in Singapore. So when they were building, when the government was building Esplanade, and they realized that apart from just infrastructures and equipment, maybe we should train the people as well. So what they did, just like what Singaporeans are very good at, or Singapore is very good at, is giving out scholarship and stuff like that. So one of the scholarship was to go and study in the UK and theater, stroke sound, and I was lucky enough to get that. And so I went away, London, 4 years, studied, came back to work in Esplanade. That's where I first met Sunil. So Sunil was mixing Jeremy, I think, Montero in the concert hall and some other things. So spent, I think, 6 years there. Well, I didn't think like exactly 6 years because that's how long my bond was. Well, for those who doesn't know what a bond is, it's a contractual term that you have to sign as part of the scholarship. Then after that, I went freelance and then started my own company, Control Freak. And yes, well, strangely, no, not strangely, coincidentally, this is the 10th year anniversary for Control Freak. So apart from all the history thing, I'm primarily a theater sound designer. So my work is very theatrical, performing arts based. I barely do concert sound. So concert means the whole rock and roll, for lack of a better term. So I do a lot of theater work. I do a lot of performing arts. I do a lot of large scale installation. I mix orchestra. I do programming work for attractions and stuff. And my company mix both all the other discipline as well. So it's not just a sound. So there's lighting, system design, video system design, and so hence I guess you can get it from the name of the company. You know, it's all about control. So that's me. Thanks.
Right. Thank you, Jeffrey. Nice story. Yeah, maybe now we have Justin Tan. A few words, please.
Okay, just a short one. Basically, I think I started in this industry when I was 16, working as a roadie for all the mobile disco, doing a lot of house party, a lot of corporate D&Ds, dinner and dance. After that, I went to SAE, graduated from there, and let me see. I was still doing quite a couple of gigs here and there. You know, I stepped out of the industry for a while to try some other industry. That wasn't my cup of tea. And after which, I was still freelancing as a sound engineer to do quite a lot of events out in the market. Then coincidentally, Jeffrey, I also, when we started J5 production in 2020, May is also our 10th year next month, which we have crossed our 10-year mark. And yes.
Yeah, what a strange time to celebrate 10th anniversary.
Yeah, tell me about it. So yes, 28 years in the industry. I've done quite a few gigs, but for J5 production itself, we concentrate a lot more in conferences as well as house of worship. I was a monitor engineer for a mega church in Singapore from 99 on monitors, and progressively went to front of house, and now I'm taking about a year plus of sabbatical. So still thinking whether if I'm going to cross back in. So yeah, basically that's my background.
Oh, very nice. Right, we have Reuben now. Please say something, Reuben. I know you're very shy,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Hi everyone. My experience in the industry not so flowery compared to the rest of them. I actually started in university, so it's very late compared to most of the other contemporaries. Started as an intern and also being involved with a student club. And then after that, you kind of just go with the flow and then realize that this is something that you really enjoy doing. So you look for opportunities to work outside, and that's pretty much how my journey began. Then after graduation, I actually did start my own company doing photography. But I think the photography industry in Singapore is it's a very challenging one at that time. And I had mentors in the industry who actually offered me job opportunities to start working as a freelance roadie, straight away to theater, you know, as a casual crew, and also that's where I started. Then from there, I did a lot of self-learning, I would say. I actually don't have any formal education in live sound. My degree is in psychology and marketing, so it's quite different from what most other people, yeah. Then, so basically just learn the ropes, move up step by step. On top of doing audio, I'm also a lighting designer. And yeah, so pretty much these two things. Now I'm currently working at the Star Performing Arts Center as the head of audio. It's more of a management position, and I don't really go on board, but a lot of system design things, a lot of people management, working with tours that come into Singapore. Yeah, so that's a very interesting experience there. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, Reuben, you know what they call people like you here in Singapore? You know, you are like the Swiss Army knife. You have a lot of things going on, and you're psychology. Wow. Right. Thank you very much, guys. I have my co-host here, Zoul. Maybe you want to say something based on experience and all that.
Hey,
Uh,
Zoul.
Hi guys. Okay, I've been around for I think 30 years.
Forever.
But I'm still younger than you, I think, Sunil. Okay. I've been doing FOH, monitors, recordings, a lot of things. Yeah. I think that's
And
enough about me.
Zoul, maybe you want to share, you know, foreign concert, which is your best experience to work with.
To work with, to mix or to work with?
I don't know. Your best experience, whether working with or mixing.
Imagine Dragons.
Okay. And your bad experience?
I think something with the name American behind.
Okay, I guess we have all
yeah. I forgot what's the full name.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, that's where the marketing part comes in.
Yeah.
Reuben, jump in anytime.
Yes.
Evaluate him psychologically. Yes.
Any of you have any issues, okay, you can make an appointment with Reuben, okay, but that will be after this session.
Right.
Okay, right, to the attendees, you participant, thank you for coming and joining us. There you go, we have all the panelists here. You know, we would be very happy if you can pose a question in the chat box here. Just type in your question along the way. I will look into it and then I will take it from there, and maybe I can question, or you can direct the question to any of the panelists here. If you wish to unmute your mic, please do. But best is that you can write in the chat column so everyone can see and understand correctly. Right. Let's start with the first question here. We can have the question from the panelists. I mean, yes, the panelists also, if you want. Participant, please. Okay, throw in your question. Well, I'll start with one. Any of the panelists here, if you wish to answer this, maybe share. What is the most common misconception people have about sound engineers? Any one of you want to take this question, or you want to share?
I think non-production people, actually, among regular folks. I mean, I think they think we have more control than we actually do, especially when we're working in difficult environments and working with less than well, it's never perfect anyway, but you know, mostly difficult environments. So I think that's the biggest misconception. They think we can control everything: the acoustics, the quality of the sound, the source, what's coming out of where we can position speakers. Sometimes, you know. So those are the I think the biggest misconception people have.
Right.
Love
Okay.
to hear
Thank
from
you.
everybody else.
Yes, please. Anyone else?
I think the other misconception that it's especially with nowadays with technology and how technology is being integrated and how readily available, as in good quality technology. You know, nowadays you can, I keep saying nowadays, you really can do really good recording, you can do very good production, you can do all this kind of work from the comfort of your home in a small car, like setup, and like a home studio base to like a single person can set up a 4-channel wireless microphone, 2 speakers, and then mix a conference and stuff. But the reality is actually, if there is a line, and I always feel that that line exists. What line is that? The line is once you cross into doing larger and bigger shows and installation and events, it's actually good sound is a collective effort, and the collective effort span beyond just your regular or your readily understandable sound department, which I will consider, of course, we will include musicians, us and stuff.
Absolutely.
But actually involves everybody, involves the lighting guys, involves the director, the producers and so on. That's how because I kind of like always say that in this day and age, when you are doing a large show and it doesn't sound as good as it should be, there's no way you can point it to one person. It's a collective problem. You get what I mean? If you're setting up two speakers and one microphone, if it sounds bad, it's kind of like your fault. You know, if you're a musician playing one, playing one guitar and the guitar doesn't sound really that good and you're out tune, it's kind of like your fault. But at the level that we are kind of doing now in large scale and stuff, so that whole kind of, because it's also important to kind of know our path, you know, because we all, no matter, you know, because actually what's very interesting is all of our scope are very different, but then we all kind of started off, you know, within ourselves, intrinsically learning the craft, you know, hiding behind the console, inside our room playing, you know. I bet half of us are field musicians. Well, I am, you know, so, you know, I can't play anything, but still. So, but as you move on and start and exploring sound engineering, sound designing and stuff, you really do get to a point whereby you realize it's like the age-old saying of it's 80% human and 20% technology, and it makes, that's to me, it's very, very important. So talk from the beginning, talk in the middle, and talk all the way to the end. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I used to experience this before when someone goes on stage and then is trying to tell me to make him or her sound better all the time. You know, that's yeah, you know. And then they go over to you and says, maybe you want to give me this a bit and that, you know. Yeah, so I know this problem sometimes, but yeah, but it's quite interesting. You've seen a lot of people. Justin Santos, you want to say something?
Yeah, they think we're magicians sometimes. Like they're holding an RF mic and then they want that signal like clear everywhere,
yes,
even if they go back into their dressing room. Like, yeah,
Right.
we're bound by the limitations of physics and the technology that we have right now.
Yeah, and sometimes they, you know, the artists bring their own equipment and they expect you to, when something goes wrong, they say
It's
you
your
are the
fault.
one. Yeah, it's your fault.
I have a
Right.
cheeky little T-shirt that says "It's a microphone, not a miracle." Sometimes
That's also true.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Reuben.
I feel that, you know, as a sound engineer, right, the biggest thing that people think that we know is that everything we do is behind the console. Like, you know, when we are mixing, yes, we decide the microphones and all, yeah, you know, it's all very physics. But I think the majority of the job, right, is dealing with the people who you're mixing for, and dealing with the artists they're working with, and of course your production companies, your tour managers, production managers. Sometimes the biggest problem is your artist manager as well, you know, things like this. And then you are like one person, the sound engineer. And if something goes wrong, right, usually they will pinpoint you, not the crew that, you know, is working with you, because you're the one who is responsible for them. And at the same time, if everything goes on well, right, they will say, yes, the musicians are the one who played well, the singers are the one who sang well. Hardly anybody will think of the sound engineer. Yeah.
Sorry, can I interrupt just quickly? Because I think
no worries.
Reuben's point is very important, because when I say it's not just one person, and what I mean is it also includes the team, as in the sound team. We need to get to a point whereby we realize that it's not just a one-person job. You know, I know VCA has allowed us to mix 125 channel, but there's no point mixing 125 channel behind one VCA, but there's nobody helping you out in the front talking to orchestra and so. So that's why one kind of follow up from Reuben's point whereby we need to kind of get to a point whereby we realize that, hey, it's not just about me, about how good am I, a sound engineer, you know. It's like I work in the theater. If you can't physically go to Circle 2 and listen, regardless of how good you are as an engineer, you can't fly your ears to Circle 2. You need someone else. So then it becomes a team effort. And knowing that when it become a team effort and pushing for it, because producer will say, how come you cannot do? Last time you did, the last time you mixed 2,000 channel, like, you Jeffrey, like best, But how come now you need a team, So that's when we start to realize that, nah, guys, this is because if we're trying to achieve this, then we need this and this. Sorry to interrupt. Just want to follow up.
No worries. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah,
I mean,
Reuben?
with every, I think in any production or anything that we do for that matter, right, it's the weakest link is always the person who is not trained enough to do their job. Then end up, you're having to solve this one person's, the problem that this one person caused, or you being the one who is able to teach this person, but you don't, and then this person ends up being the one causing and making a mistake, and then everybody has to sort this out, and then it will cost the production. So I think production is only as good as the weakest link. So like Jeffrey mentioned, it's not just the engineer, it's everybody down from even the one who's going to push the case off your lorry, your container. They are the ones who will make sure that your equipment gets to stage well, in good condition, and also it's a whole package. It's not just doesn't mean that you're a very good engineer, you always deliver a very good show.
How many of you have gone through this? I used to have this before. When someone make a mistake on stage, right? But the audience come for them, right? It's the idol, they pay for it. But when they on stage make that mistake, maybe some thump on the sound system, they drop a mic or anything can be, and the audience look at you directly, says that, why are you doing this, that kind of thing, how many of you have faced this before? Justin, you want to say?
Yeah, like it's like what you guys said earlier. It's a team effort, including the artist. If the artist suddenly just walks in front of the PA, like no matter how well I tune that, that's gonna feed back. And that has happened before. It just involved me having to explain to the artist that next time maybe he or she could avoid like the front row where the front fills are.
Right.
Also, I just want to add, if you know what you're doing and you're doing a job and stuff like this happens, don't beat yourself up about it too much. There are bad days, there are good days, right? Recognize where the problems are, right? And move on. Because if you just keep beating yourself up about all this, it really is some really negative emotions you'll be carrying around for a long time. But you really need to know how and why to avoid these kind of problems again. I used to get really frustrated when a problem happens on one show. I'll wait for the next show to redeem myself. So between show 1 and show 2, there's a whole period of just being really upset, and I don't think that's very healthy. If Reuben can just help me out with that, that would be great. But yeah, so just wanted to put it out there for the younger guys who
So Sunil's solution is do a lot of shows. So that
Yeah,
he
do a
don't
lot of
have,
shows.
there's a very short time between upset about himself.
Yeah.
So you just keep
Try-
doing shows,
Try to get better and better and better with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think like having that conception in your head that I'm always gonna have a perfect show, that's not always gonna happen. Like the reason why they trust you and they pay you the way they do is for you to be able to solve problems as you go along. Like I don't think even like huge acts out there have those kinds of nights where nothing goes wrong. Like there's always a bad cable, there's always a new challenge with the venue, and shit happens. Like you have to live with it, and as Sunil said, like beating you up won't really help you the next time around. Like shake it off and then just carry on. Like hopefully you learn from it.
Yeah, sometime during rehearsal everything goes pretty well, and then the next day when the show is about to start, and then the very first minute someone muted the mic, someone just off the mic because we have itchy fingers sometimes, or rather we do have people who want to help. It happened to me before, and I say, why you do this? Oh, I want to save the batteries, that kind of thing. Maybe Justin Tan, you want to share something?
Yeah, I think end of the day, having a very good team of people around you, people you can trust, is very important. I think in any gigs, like yes, I totally agree with all you guys that it takes a lot more people behind the scene to make a show look good and look great. And a lot of times I think even for me as a rental company, we fail sometimes in getting people that doesn't gel, and it happens that that's why I always tell my team that when you look for whoever that's going to be working for you guys, please make sure that um, they are able to work hand in hand with one another. They understand each other, because it's not only just sound. We have things like even video lightings, we have structures, we have riggers and everything that if this whole team of people just can't work with one another, it's just not going to get a lot of things moving as fast as we love to make it happen. So I always feel that like for the A1 and the A2, these two fellas must really gel. If they can't gel, chances of the show is not going to work for the sound area is going to be very high. So I always say, for example, when I tell my guy that when you book a sound engineer for this particular conference, okay, ask him if he has someone who is his sidekick that can be his A2. I think that would be the best, because these two will be able to talk to one another very well and understand each other, and no one else touches any of the equipments other than that. So that's what I feel is going to help a lot in a lot of the productions. Your team that's around you, and of course, the clients don't come with unreasonable requests of last minute. Say, for example, 5 panelists, you prepared for 5 headset mics, and they come with, hey, I have another 4 more panelists that's going up. How am I going to do it? So it's going to be a bit challenging, on this kind of last minute request. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can pick up there for a second, Faz, you guys bring up a bunch of points that I think are kind of important. We have, a large list of people watching this from different areas of expertise, from beginners to pros, and some of the points you guys make here are stuff happens, things go bad, and how important people are in the job that you do and working with people. And that brings me to a question that, I've often had people ask me, what do I need to know, the most important thing that I need to know technically to be a sound engineer? And sometimes I think, well, maybe it's not technical, maybe it's something else. So I would come to you guys and say, what advice would you give to someone who wants to join your field and are just starting out? And we'll start with Justin, since you were just finishing that. Justin Tan.
Oh, okay. I guess end of the day is enjoying what you do. That's very important. You must have the passion to want to be in the industry, because without passion, it's not going to last you probably 2 months down the road or 3 months down the road, because if you were to work full-time in a rental company or in a theater, sometimes they back home in Singapore, we run shows back to back, and with the limited amount of sleep, you will feel that somehow is not justifiable between the money and the amount of work you put in there. A lot of case, especially for the younger ones, who just comes into the industry and says that I'm only paid this X amount of money, and they're making me work round the clock, and why am I doing such things, and a lot of times it's not only them, but their partners, their families will play a lot of important part in this as well, because the family will be asking them like, is it worth your effort? You know, whatever you are doing, is this the correct industry that you are in? You know, I see you slogging. You know, you come back at 4 a.m. and you are leaving in an hour's time. You know, yeah, and so it kind of happens back home here in Singapore, and a lot of times, if you don't have the passion and you don't enjoy what you do, it's going to be a bit tough, you know, sticking on into this industry. But trust me, after you know you have gone through long enough, you will actually feel that it's actually well worth it, and is, you know, and when you truly enjoy this industry, you know, I think nothing else, you know, beats what you are doing. Yeah.
Okay.
Eh,
Yeah. Get on, Tim.
I was just going to say, if anyone else had any comment on that type of advice or things they would give to people entering the industry.
Well, I think. Can you hear me? Oh yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So look, I think a basic basic electronics is important, like really basic, because we are dealing with cables and impedances and electrical equipment and stuff like that. So that's important. A good foundation in acoustics. You got to know the moment you walk into a hall, into a room, what kind of challenges you're going to be dealing with, you know, and what kind of mitigations steps you can take. But most importantly, I think is listen. Not just hear, listen. You know, I think that's the biggest skill set you can develop. A bit of psychology and marketing goes a long way too. So pick that up as you go along. No, I'm not kidding. This is not a joke. This is not too. This is really helps. You gotta know how to market yourself. You gotta know how to get along with people, because we work in a collaborative and a service industry, which means people are all around us, right? So if you don't know how to get along with people, if people don't want to hang around with you, you can be as good as an engineer, but nobody wants to be around with you, and that's not going to help. So yeah, so
That's great advice.
get that sorted. Yeah.
You suddenly made my degree sound really useful.
It is useful, man. Hear the sound, don't play.
Very nice.
Yeah, so just
Totally
to add
agree.
to that, yeah, I think for those who want to go to school for like what we do right now, the main advice I want to give to people like that is that I don't want you to just trust like that riding your course or riding your university or school will like land you the job. Like you have to put in the time. You have to give that extra effort, because like anybody can go to school, anybody can read a book, but if you're not pushing yourself to learn more, to practice what you know, like that education's only gonna get you so far. And as they mentioned earlier, like you have to be appealing with your personality. Like nobody wants to hire that grumpy guy who thinks he's all that. Like you have to play with the team. Like you have to understand that not everybody is like you. You have to learn how to deal with different people, different culture, and all that. And if there's like just one concept that I could give to people starting out, like it's learn signal flow, learning how to trace the signal from the source all the way down to the end, and that will help you greatly when troubleshooting problems in the future.
Anybody want to chip in? Yeah.
I think if it's something for people who are starting out, then I think it's to always be responsible for what you do, I think. Especially when you are a freelancer. Every time, you know, you take up a job, something better will come along. And then it's up to you to decide whether or not are you going to give up whatever you have promised someone else before for something that is more worthwhile. And what's your reason behind doing this? And then, you know, my personal advice is don't do it. You know, always, yeah. You know, once you promise somebody you're going to take on the job, you take on the job regardless of what better gig comes along, because that speaks volumes to the type of person you are. And that will bring you that will carry you a longer way versus getting a good gig at that point in time?
Straight up, man, Reuben. Really, two things. Actually, you brought up two things which I follow through till today. Say what you mean what you say. You're only as good as your last gig. These two things. You remember this, and I think you have enough tools for the whole of your career. And for the for people just starting up, find a good mentor. I find a lot of people just jump on now thinking that, hey, I'm good. I used to have heroes growing up. I used to listen to Hugh Padgham and listen to Phil Ramone and stuff like that, and thinking, oh, those guys set a standard for me to chase after. And so that was part of the learning. I don't have many regrets, but I think the one thing I wish I did when I was younger was I wish I took a leap of faith sometimes. Like just pack my bags, get out there. I've had opportunity one time to jump on an international gig and I chickened out, and I'm still kicking myself up over that. So yeah. So take a leap of faith, especially if you're young and you got nothing to hang on. I mean, no family yet to just do it.
Totally agree, Sunil, on this, because I just want to follow up on that point, and I think it's especially poignant in this day and age. Yeah, it's like this whole Singapore is having this kind of you're not supposed to call it a lockdown, kind of like we're all stuck at home, and the thing is immediately like woohoo holiday, but I realized I end up spending all my time on watching webinar and meetings and stuff. What I'm trying to say is, for the younger guys around, they might get to a point where there's too much education. When we first started, there was nothing. I can't even enroll in a sound engineering course. Now you can, from online course, offline course, 1-to-1, 1-for-1, whatever you want to call it. There's tons of course. But what Sunil says is very, very important. And that's how I got most of my earlier job, is have a thick enough skin, go and knock on the door. Hi, you don't know me, but I'm really interested in trying this out. Can I just follow you? The whole kind of like taking the initiative to going on internship, because I used to teach for a bit as well. And sometimes I see a lot of young people, they had great opportunity for internship and stuff, and then they end up just sitting in a corner of the theater, not saying anything, not doing anything, don't know. No, of course, you need to kind of open your eyes. You can. Many years ago, just to share as well, and in London, I also was on a work experience and doing my internship with a very, very famous and big company in London. And then my mentor told me something that till this day I will always remember and still remember, and I try to share with my colleagues and my friends and people who are starting up as well. As if you spend 2 months in that company and you learn nothing, it's actually your fault. It's not the company's fault. Because you are not being, you're not motivated. You're not, if you sit down there, regardless how big or how established the company is, if you go somewhere thinking that, yes, this is Abbey Road, they're going to spoon feed me the Abbey Road and implant the Abbey Road plug-in into my head. Then after this, I'll be the best sound engineer ever. Nah, it won't work. Now you need to go and pursue what you want, and by pursuing it gives you more value. And once it gives you more value, regardless of how difficult it is, you will continue to keep doing it. That's why we are still doing it, and it is still tough work. It is still tough work, and I don't want to sugarcoat any of this. If you have any doubt, maybe quit younger. Like, I'm too late already, so I'm stuck with this.
Then there you go. Everyone here is actually stuck with this, right? During my school days, when I left school, I just want to share this a bit. My parents used to ask me like, "What you want to do?" We have so many dreams, but when I end up doing a rental for sound and video, and during that time, they were like saying, why do you want to do this? You should be a doctor, or engineer. There's a lot of things, because that's what parents want us to do, right? During that days. If the parent gonna support you also during those days, there's no school, there's nothing, and during those days there's no even internet where we can look into to expand your experience or learn something. We learn the hard way. if I could remember myself, I learned a lot doing foreign shows, and we look and learn, right? And we look, we learn, we understand, and then the next show we apply, and we try to set our behavior and our discipline according to the foreigners. My favorite were always the Japanese when they do the setup, man. They are like the military of setups. You know, they have a very disciplined crew, very experienced people. So this is how we learn along the way. There's no school during that time. This is our school on site, right? Right.
Fast. Sorry, can I just jump in? The questions are building up though from the people there. Is there how do we handle this? You wanna help us manage?
I didn't see any question actually. How do I see this?
There's a Q&A that's sort of building up.
Okay.
Yeah, we're grouping those things over here, and we'll feed those into you guys. Files are coming in through the text message as well. So the first one we have is it's kind of a I'll jump on the first one that's hanging here. It's basically, how do you find a problem? So let's imagine you have a speaker or someone who's on stage, whether it be a vocalist or someone talking, and all of a sudden the mic dies. How do you approach it? What's your solution in that spot where the star or the main person, they have a failure? How do you approach it quickly and professionally?
First thing, always have a backup. You can figure out what happened later, but always have the backup. That's what I would do first. Everything else is really you need help from your good stage techs. You need good people to kind of pick it up, get it, and get the information over to you if you need to go back to that microphone. But always have backup. When you start working in broadcasting, you realize that everybody has redundancy. We don't have two transmitters. We don't have one transmitter. We have two transmitters. We don't have two gensets. We have four gensets. So why should it be different on stage? And I think that's the first step. Then you can always learn what happened later.
Okay. Right. We have some question here. Let me go through this. I really missed this. Sorry, guys. What was the most crazy request from a client? This is from Leslie Joseph. Crazy request. You know, it's like maybe out of the whatever you can think of. You know. Yeah. Anybody?
I think for me, like one crazy request would be like not to see speakers at all. Like they expect good sound throughout the entire audience area, but they don't want to see your speakers. Meaning
That's
like
not
they have to
crazy.
be
That's
all
my life.
the
Yeah.
right. Like it has to be all the way into the corners, and then they go complaining like, "Oh, I don't have audio in the middle. What's up?" Like, yeah.
Well, but they can see lights. They can see moving heads next
Yeah.
to the actor standing on upright truss. That's fine, but cannot see speaker.
I don't know about crazy requests. I have crazy ways of people trying to explain shit to me. You know, like it's like, okay, guys, sound is a little brown. You know, okay, all right. So stuff like that. So because yeah, so sometimes they don't know how to express themselves. They don't know how to explain it in a technical term. I even had a singer complain that. I was at front of house, but she said that it feels like the monitors, the Indian monitors, are punching me in the ear. Right? Is it too loud? Is it too much bass? You know, is there too much kick drum? No, it's punching in the ear. So you know, part of our job is to try and translate and understand what is the problem or what they're trying to say. A pianist could tell you that I'm not feeling the hammer. I can hear the sound great, but I don't feel the hammer hit. So I don't know how hard or I'm playing hard, but I don't feel the overtones. You know, then what do you do? This kind of thing. So I think, I don't know about crazy requests, but yeah, I get funny people request funny ways like trying to explain what the problem is that they are experiencing.
Oh, okay. I just remembered, and I was sharing with my friends just a few days ago. once this lady came out to me from the audience. It's like, it's very cold in the theater. Can you bring the air conditioning up a bit? Thanks.
I get this all the time, eh. You get it once. Eh.
Yeah, but you know, the console is a SD7 and the SD7 controls aircon.
It's okay. SD7 can control aircon, control lighting, control video. I've got all these requests before. Yeah, everything.
Yeah, I do have one crazy request before as well. Recently, I think just last year, one of my clients came to me. They want to hold a event in this open tentage, you know, in front of a big main road where there's lots of cars that's going in and out. And I'll call Jeffrey up and say that, Jeff, how do I do a noise cancellation in the in this tentage? You know, there's totally no way. They want to do a 2-panel discussion, and it's like, it's quiet, you know. And these 2 panelists are female panelists, and they got no voice projection or anything like that, you know. And you know, there's totally no way I can. They want to do it with that cost involved, you know. So what we did was that we had to aircon the whole tent, you know, drape up, double drape the place, make it as quiet as possible, and even provided IEMs to the participants who cannot hear properly. But thank God, the show went very well. It was pretty quiet suddenly during that session, although it was just a 2-hour session. It went pretty well, and everybody could hear the panelists, the 2 panelists, loud and clear. So you have all this kind of funny stuffs coming in on and off, you know.
Okay. Just because of what you have just said, we have someone Wai Sing Ong. I think that's related to what you guys have just said. Anyway, the question is, I'm part of a sound monitor and light control in my church. How to control sound and feedback when there is no acoustic board and my church hall is flat cement wall with high ceiling, you know, about 2-story high. So Justin has mentioned a bit of some improvement, temporary improvement. Maybe Jeffrey, you want to add on to this, being a theater guy in an acoustic actual environment?
Actually, no, I'm not the best person, because the thing is, sometimes the best challenge is churches are one of or house of worship environment is sometimes one of the most acoustically challenged places, because even a new church, you know, they want to kind of like replicate the kind of olden high ceiling, you know, so RT60 of like 5 hours and stuff like that. So all the kind of reflectiveness and all those, you know. But then you do have like kind of modern venues that are very well acoustically treated and very large in venues like the Star Performing Arts. So Reuben probably can kind of chip in, and what do you do? So, but having said all this, it's a very, very difficult challenge, because ultimately why we exist, actually half of the time we exist because of bad acoustics. If acoustics are fantastic, most of the time you get away without reinforcement. That's why at the end of the day, a large part of sound engineering is the word reinforcement. What is reinforcement? What is amplification? Making it louder, sending it to more space or more places or more areas in the room. So in the ideal world, fantastic acoustics, just speaking, just, you know, the service, it's fine. Don't need amplification. But we all gone down to the road whereby, you know, now it's about the show and stuff. And acoustic treatment is probably the last thing that people will put money in, you know, because it is expensive. So that's why most of the time acoustic problems should be solved acoustically, i.e., you know, asking a civil engineer will be a better person than asking me, because by the time it reaches us, we solve problem electronically or electrically. Of course, there is also crossover between, you can do draperies, you can do, you can hang things up, things that you can improve the situation is, of course, directivity, control, knowing your speakers, louder never equates higher intelligibility. Louder in a cave means less intelligibility. You will hear more echo. That's when your reflected sound is even higher than your direct sound. So must be careful about the relationship between SPL and intelligibility, and understanding program is also important. A lot of times, a lot of churches for the first, like, wow, that's, have to wind back the clock a while. When churches started a few decades back, it's completely fine. Then comes the 21st century, then comes the congregation that needs a rock band, then rock band in, like you said, a full cement, rock solid, smooth surface, square room, then you have all the issue. Then all the more you need to talk to people playing in the service, you need to talk to your sound department. So it's control, focus, get the right balance, hopefully can do some acoustics and stuff. So it's really a difficult question because it involves program. What kind of, is your service really, or it's really banging full on metal kind, or is it just kind of like pop rock, or even just kind of one guitar and a piano? All this plays a part, and yeah. So it's again, talk. Have a conversation.
Right. I have another question here from Clement Stevens. His question is, since most of you guys in the industry for a long time, how did you manage to keep up with innovation and stay on top of the game? Reuben, you want to say? How do you actually be on top of this? Because you are the Singapore Army knife,
Honestly, yeah, like Jeffrey mentioned, there's a lot of avenues for education. Then, of course, you have to pick what you are learning. When you have a lot of education, you also have good and bad education. You need to know what you're putting yourself through. Otherwise, you actually end up wasting time. Also, I think having a lot of contact with your industry colleagues is very important, because the thing is, everyone in this industry are techies, right? They will spend time going online, and then they will realize, hey, there's this new toy. Let's tell our friends about it. And then once we look at the toy, we know what it does, and then we will think, so how does this do that? And that's where, it's very self-driven, where you go and look for how do things work. And then next moment, you'll think, okay, since I know how this works now, can I use it for some other purposes? Perhaps. And maybe not even only for audio, but okay, there's this speaker that I can use maybe to control lighting, something along that lines. It's pretty much that.
Sorry.
Sorry, please.
No, please, carry on.
No, I'm okay. I'm done now.
Okay, so a lot of the technology is industry driven, and when I say industry, I don't mean it as a expensive, like the encompassing, as in specifically what you do. Like I have a lot of specificity of what I do, which is very different from running a venue like Reuben, running a hire company like Justin, doing what Justin Santos does. It's very different. So knowing where's your path then kind of dictates how you continuously learn. Like a very interesting thing that I always kind of tell myself is, through the course of like kind of 20 years of doing this, the first 10 years, if I have to find new sound guy, I probably park myself outside a music school and find a music graduate. Then the next 10 years, right, I will never do that. Now where I park myself outside an IT school, so I can get an IT graduate who knows what's networking, who understand, so audio over IP is something like this, Dante, blah, 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 whatever format it's like, So how all this changes and move, and you have to the industry will inform you, and you kind of have to stay, not only you have to stay abreast, you kind of have to predict, 10 years ago, I think Sunil and Fast and even Zoul, will all agree with me. Sound engineering, it's all about fighting the bus. The bus, everything is about, the system has a bus.
Yep.
I just, I spoke to some 20-year-old recently. It's like, huh, what's that? What? There's no such thing as that anymore. Nowadays it's about, digital network. No, long gone. Now it's latency. It's all about how come I open my mouth and I plug the guitar, I only hear it in my ear half a bit later. So all this, I'm of course I'm simplifying the whole kind, but all this technology only makes sense to us because at the end of the day, what we do, it's an applied science. Hence the engineering component. Yes, there is also the creative and artistic component, but I guess the engineering and technology component of it is the application component. You need to keep abreast, and you want to because it does help your work and it makes it better. I firmly believe in that. Or done.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that. It's always dealing with the things that are happening there. I think we lost Foz, so I'm going to try to pick up here for a second. Something came up a little bit ago as you were talking about the things that you could do and the things that you couldn't do. And one of the questions we had is when you're working with a client, whether it be a producer, whether it be an artist or whatnot, and they come with these odd requests that just aren't feasible. How do you approach that conversation to say, okay, what you've asked for is not something we can do, but here's a solution. So Reuben, I'll go with you on that one. How do you approach a conversation like that?
I guess I guess it's always good to have a backup plan. I think whenever especially if it's something that they already bring to you in the advance, right? And then you already receive and this is something that they want to do. And at least for my case, when I receive gigs into our venue, we know what is possible, we know what is not possible. And also, if whatever they want to achieve is not possible, what is the closest that I can deliver? And then I will, put it back to them and say, this is what I have to offer. Are you okay with it? If you're not, what kind of concessions can be made? So it's still back to the conversation. But one thing I learned is we don't outrightly say no. The moment the moment somebody presents something to you and then you just go no, it becomes a very negative thing. And no matter what solution you have going forward, it will never be received as well. And then they will always think that I've been shortchanged. This gig is not the way I want it to because I've been shortchanged. Yeah, it makes everything go downhill from that point. So I think tactically saying no is, I think it's what we will always do.
It's artful in how you say yes to something else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sunil, what do you do when you can't give them any more brown, so to speak? I think you're muted. Sorry.
Layers to this thing. One is I'm kind of aware of the organizational structure of their production. Sometimes straight to the artist is not the best way. They have people they trust in between, right? It could be the manager, it could be the artist manager, it could be even the producer, and so on and so forth. But the general approach I think is I'll be honest with the right person first, and I'll tell them what the issue is. I have this thing where I will take a lot of shit from artists who really bring it on stage, you know what I mean? Because they obviously have something to give, right? And if they're uncomfortable, then there is something to be looked at, right? Because I know. Right. And then it also helps that you have a standing, you have credentials, you have experience, right? So when you speak, someone will stop and listen. Okay, he's saying, yes, he can try, but here are the issues, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So it helps like that. But yeah, so I think it's important if you think that it's a problem you can't solve at the desk, then you need to speak to the right person. And you need to figure out who that person is very quickly. Otherwise, this problem will escalate and escalate and escalate, and it's a really bad day for everybody.
Right. Jeffrey, I saw you trying to say something there. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. I'm just also kind of playing devil's advocate. There is also the other kind of the other end of the spectrum. What I mean by the other end of the spectrum is because, and then this is another perspective of my work itself, is through the years I've developed relationship. So I'm not in a situation whereby Reuben needs to kind of like, you know, receive artists, different groups, week in, week out, and kind of like have to all deal with their idiosyncrasy and intricacy and stuff. So my kind of work is, you know, through the years I've kind of like grow and kind of like shape into a kind of like plethora of kind of like client and service provider relationship. So for me, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying they go out and piss everybody off. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's also sometimes important to have your style. And sometimes your style means that, you know, if you kind of realize that maybe this kind of style of client or artist is not your style, maybe you kind of like, you know, need to kind of like, so to, you know, it's a constant conversation. Like I said, conversation, not just sometimes, not just with other people, with yourself as well. Kind of re-evaluating the whole kind of like your career path and kind of chip away. Then you might get into like, you know, and for me, it's because I don't really work with a large pool of different people. I work with this specific few kind of like theater groups and clients and stuff. And then I myself now are building my own team as well. So, and to me, those are the time whereby you really can do very, very interesting work. So I think, yes, it's important to learn how to say no tactfully, learn how to take all the problems that is given to, but I think it's also important, just like, you know, in the music world, you can be the best bassist in the world. If the band doesn't suit you, the music doesn't suit you, it doesn't suit you, you know. You don't walk off, you know, after second song, you know, finish the gig, reevaluate, think about it, you know, blah, blah, and still, you know, and a lot of people that I don't work with are still friends and colleagues, and we still exchange knowledge and stuff like that. But I think personality is important, and it is quite easy for me, you know, unlike the music world whereby everybody is a star. It's quite easy for us to kind of, you know, because backstage, you know, then we really go kind of like, but so I'm trying to say the personality is important, as in your work and so your style of work. Yeah.
Can I chip in? I think this comes also to a common question: how much control, right, does the sound guy have, and so on and so forth? Which I don't really think that's even the right question sometimes, because you see, I have a sense of taste and craft that's inside of me, and that's come from working with people, working in different genres, years of experience, blah blah blah, and all that. But there's also the artist, there's also the producer, there's also the musical director, there's all these people, right? So I don't see it as control. I see it as a possibility of the best collaboration if we all understand each other and we all can communicate. And so that's how I see the whole thing. Because really, as you all started in the very, very first conversation, that it is a teamwork, it is team effort. And nobody can just look at one another to make to completely 100% take the success and the failure of a production.
Wow, agree. Nice answer. Okay. Let me go to the other question. This is based on experience. What is the best way to remove noise on an audio recording? Any advice or any recommendation?
Don't get it in there in the first place. I don't.
Is what first, you know, what's comes first and what comes next, right? This is basically like the end. And they see you guys like a miracle man, you know, hey, I got noise in this. Can you get rid of it?
Well, it's a lot of time and money fixing stuff in post. So anybody says, I'll fix it in post, shoot the guy now. But if to answer that question though, I don't know. I mean, for me nowadays, it's a lot of plugins that do this work. There's some good noise reduction plugins out there. Masking will help. Depends on how much noise, signal to noise ratio you're dealing with. You know, sometimes you don't have to deal with it too much. In the mix, you don't hear it. You know, so yeah. So it's kind of a it's difficult to answer that question specifically without knowing what the specific problem is. But generally, yeah. So in post-production, plugins can help solve something. Generally, we try not to get the noise in the first place. But I know sometimes shit happens. So the other way is actually filter. If you really need to just decide in the mix what frequencies can that channel afford to lose and what is needed just to, you know, to make it functional, and clean up all the mess that you don't need. You might be able to save the track.
All right. Next question from Kenneth Goodwin. Is the usable wireless frequency spectrum shrinking as fast where you work as it is in the States? So this is not an Asia question, and maybe Tim, you want to answer this. What's the usable wireless frequency now?
In the U.S., well,
Yeah.
that's ever changing, but pretty much anything below the 600 range, from 470 to 600. You know, it depends. You know, you can't just say this frequency will work in every market. There's the regulations, which you can look at the FCC site that will tell you what the regulations are, but that doesn't mean that those frequencies are clear. So you need to, you know, look at what's active as far as TV stations and things in your market. If you don't have scanning equipment, which a lot of people don't, you know, turn your device on, do a scan on the device itself, see what's open, and go from there. If you have any questions of which you should be purchasing, then you can reach out to some of us at Sennheiser, and we'll help you find out what the best thing is for your area. We can look at what's active and help you make those decisions. But that's a question you get a lot, and you wish you could just give a solid answer that works. It's just not always that simple.
Yeah, and I heard that the 700 spectrum is taken away now in the States.
Both 6 and 700. 700's
6
been
and
gone
7
for a
now.
while.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
Asia,
600.
yeah, Asia, you guys should be grateful because we still have the 600. You know, and I and I have a rental company who have 700. They're still using it. Well, anyway, so so here, you know, in a big country like in the States, they are huge, and but their spectrum is getting narrower. We should be very grateful of what we have here in Asia. Many times I have from Europe or from America asking me what kind of frequencies we still can use here, and they were so surprised that we can have 600 and some lower of the 700. And yes, that's how it goes for this question here. And the next question: how do you deal with requests for actors to hear themselves in monitors on stage? How do you deal with this request? You know, many times they, you know, I think they say they don't hear themselves, and then they don't hear everything, whatever on stage.
Okay, I maybe I'll take that.
Okay, Justin.
I guess a lot of time, I don't know if you are talking about fallback speakers versus IEMs. A lot of times it's because they're requesting for too many things into their ears. They want this, they want the drums, they want the band, you know, they want the keyboard, they want everything to be fed into their ears, and a lot of times it get masked off. I mean, the vocals just can't come into their ears as clear as they want to. So I think we have to speak to them. I think, especially for monitor engineers, I can tell a lot of the monitor engineers that, hey, you guys are like, you know, PROs, you know, public relation officers, you know, you really got to interact with the band members, and you got to find out exactly what they want, not so much of what you want, you know, because every time when you go to another gig, you may think that what you have learned from your previous 5-10 gigs, okay, and when this new band comes along, it will be a total different request, you know, every time. So to get them, to get to know them well is very important, yeah, so that, you know, people will trust you more, I believe, even and as well as, you know, when they say that they can't hear themselves. Okay, so I think the first thing you do is that probably for me, if it's in a rehearsal, I will step up on stage and hear for myself, you know, what exactly goes wrong, you know, and if it is, you know, it's too jarring, you know, the whole band, everybody is in there, you know, and it's like, so you have to speak to them and say, hey, look, we have to lose certain things, you know, if not, it's no good for your ears as well, you know, because everyone is in this for the long haul, you know. You don't want to be losing your hearing, you know, in 5 years down the road, or 10 years down the road, or maybe, you know, just 6 months down the road. So I think talking to the musician, talking to the artist is really, really very important, and finding out, you know, what exactly they want, and how do we come to a compromise on stage is also very important, because we are not their resident engineer where we tour with them, you know, or we tour with that particular band, you know, we know exactly, oh, okay, we can lose this, we can lose that, you know. This singer doesn't need to hear the guitars, doesn't need to hear, you know, keyboard 2, you know, just feed keyboard 1, have a little bit of click here, have some hi-hats, so that she don't lose her timing, and we are good to go, you know. Yeah, that is not how different engineers work.
Okay. I have one question for Justin Santos.
Okay.
Question goes like this: What about this job has given the most satisfaction? Yeah.
What part of this job has given me the most satisfaction?
That's right.
Getting paid.
Yeah. Well, that's one of it. Yeah, I guess the feeling of having the audience like really enjoying themselves, as well as the artist, like there's this magic moment when you're mixing sometimes, when you just like keep your eyes off like the artist and then look around and everybody's like really feeling it. Like that's such a rewarding experience. And I haven't exactly found anything like it yet, so that's why I'm still loving my job right now, right? Or there's also this moment like as a system tech, like after you fly your speakers, after you tune it, and then you play your test track and it sounds amazing, then you feel like, okay, all those hours of like staying up late, flying this PA, designing the angles and all that, like it's worth it. Like I don't know, like you have to hear it to really experience it, but like hearing that just makes my day sometimes.
Okay. I have another question here. Now this is an open question. In live situation, if suddenly microphones stop working, so what should we do first? As this town hall is going on, you know, what do you need to do first? Sunil, you want to say this? You want to say something?
I think
Yes,
this
some
was
advice.
basically answered just now, like, you know,
Yes.
the backup, you know, the backup.
But
I
do you
always
want to
have
have advice? Yes.
Yeah, always have a backup. I mean, it doesn't matter if that backup was meant for a vocal or meant for a guitar amp or whatever. You just have some backups, you know what I mean? Especially wireless mics. If something dies, just run a mic, stick it in there. At least you get the sound going first, you know? Then you figure out why it died in the first place, you know? Maybe you had a bad cable, you know, maybe if, yeah, bad junction, anything. The list of problems can go on and on. But the fastest way to solve the problems is have backups, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just
and just to
surprised
add
so
to
many
that-
people talk about failing microphones. You're like, is it common? It's like this is 2021. It's not like 1921. Like,
Maybe they
Unless they're meaning wirelesses and things are
I
dropping
don't know.
out,
You know,
stuff
it's
like
like
that.
everybody
Yeah.
seems to, or maybe fast just like to pick up all the question. From, you know, 40 microphone. Like, it's like nowadays all equipments like, you know, Sennheiser, all this manufacturer, they build very well built and good quality microphone. Things shouldn't. You know,
I think, Jeff, I think probably what they probably want to find out is like how do they like actually really troubleshoot. I think everybody understands that
Mhm.
you know, we need to have backups, you know, in place in terms of even wireless mics, IEMs or kind of thing. But I think the most important thing is that when you troubleshoot, it's always from input to outputs. Do you all agree with me?
Yes.
That
Depends on what it is.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
we back to microphone. And then yeah.
yeah, if we are back to microphones, you know, it's always from inputs to outputs, you know, and
Yeah.
and try to keep it simple, you know, don't jump, you know, trying to troubleshoot all over the place, you know, and you get yourself all confused. Yeah, end of the day. Yeah.
If I could, my thing here is on failure, whether it be with audio or whatever you're working on. Failure isn't as scary if you already have a plan on what you're going to do when a failure happens, right? And that's preparedness. And I think that's the thing that you don't get taught sometimes until you're in a situation where something fails, and then you decide next time this happens, I'm going to have a plan. And that kind of thing is what experience gives us, and that's why several of you guys, I think, have said earlier, have a great mentor. And
Mm.
I think that's what mentoring does for you, is gives you the things that you can't foresee, right? So
Yeah.
just my input
My
there.
Right. My input would be it depends on let's say the microphone is used by the CEO. Then you seriously need a live standby. Uh, um, or otherwise you can share a microphone somewhere near on stage, because the microphone, when it fail, based on my experience, it fail. Or based on your guys' experience, if anything fail, it fail, right? In the past, we used to have power supply standing by, right? But nowadays, everything is stable, like what Jeffrey has said. Everything is seriously
But we
stable.
still have redundant power still, so we still
Correct.
use
Yes. Yeah.
UPSs, and I've
That's
done
that's
shows
right.
whereby we have backup generators. So
Yeah. This is based on
Just
the experience we went through, right? Based on experience. But the industry nowadays, I guess, everything, they take things for granted. There's nothing you can do. Even not even a fuse nowadays. You can't even change a fuse nowadays. Uh, Now Dante is the only one going backward. I would see Dante redundancy. I think it's all because of switches and all that. But I don't see mixing console with additional power supply, which actually become a big thing now. Yes, if it's a big event, you want to have this all standby. Okay, even a standby
yeah,
microphone maybe. Yeah. Okay.
right.
Maybe we go for the next question. Yes. Anybody want to say
Yeah,
something?
I've got one,
Okay.
and this may it may actually take us to the end, and it's a very timely question. But how I think we should send this to everyone. But given the current situation that we're in with pandemic, what are
Yeah.
you learning and adapting to to apply to your work, and what you'll do as you approach the future? Or is there anything that you find super important that you've learned, or any adaptations that you've made? And I'll take whomever would like to go first there.
All right, I'll start. The first thing I'm taking from all of this is to be prepared, because having a lot of friends that are really in a bad place right now financially and all that, I think we should, like, as people starting out, like from the younger generation, like we should start putting up like a fund just in case stuff like this happens, because it's very common for people starting out, like no matter what job, to think like, oh, you're always gonna get that next paycheck, like I can always make do. um but yeah, stuff like this happens and it can catch you off guard. So like it's to be prepared for like scenarios like this. But with regards to technicals, I think I've learned a lot about broadcast audio. Like coming from a live sound engineer, it wasn't exactly something I looked into. But now, um, most of the stuff we do right now is online, right? So like how to mix for live broadcasts and things like that, signal flow, the gear needed, the techniques that you apply, those are really valuable, especially during this time where we can't really go out. So like, be it in a church or a corporate thing where somebody asks you, "Hey Justin, can you set up a basic streaming thing?" Yeah, that could like really help you get through this. Like even if it's a small job, right?
Okay. Good. Justin Tan.
Okay.
Oh, well, for this pandemic, I mean, yes, we've lost quite a lot of jobs. I would say almost zero to nothing at this current moment back here in Singapore. What we do is that most of our team members are not allowed to come back to the office anymore due to this lockdown back here in Singapore. So as a company, what we do is we do a lot of Zoom meetings with our teams just to make sure that they're still sane at home, you know, and encourage them to read a lot and know what's on the market. You know, yes, prior before the lockdown, we were doing a couple of live streaming. We were doing a couple for some government agencies, and we are doing things that usually not in our scope of work. You know, in terms of live stream. Although we do live stream in major conferences before, but that is just a small little part in a huge scale conference, you know. Whereas now the live stream seems to be the wow. It's like the rest of the audience are no longer around. You know, you don't have to worry about the audiences anymore. You just have to worry about all your participants that is in the live stream. So of course, hearing them correctly is important. You know, getting the correct microphones for the engineers and you know, kind of thing is a new learning curve for all of us. And we are always encouraging all guys to keep reading up, stay in touch with the industry, you know, and when this whole thing kicks back on, hopefully, fingers crossed, you know, that it'll be better than what we have experienced, you know. Yeah.
Good. Anyone else on that topic?
I think if anything, because our industry in Singapore is actually built on freelancers, I think what I do hope is that everybody knows or at least picks up on how to manage their finances, because a lot of them, as far as I understand, do live from hand to mouth, and that does, you know, hit them really bad in such times. And also, I think it's a good opportunity now to actually pick up a new skill. Not only skills for our industry to help you to, you know, level up when you come, you know, when this situation improves, but also to pick up a new skill in a totally different area that could help you in our job, as in could help you survive now, and also help you when, you know, the situation improves in, you know, doing so. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so I totally agree with Reuben. Right now, I think what's the biggest thing on everyone's mind is how do I earn, how do I keep some revenue coming in and stuff like that. And well, the first thing is to just be aware of that this will take some time. It will start with basically cities open up, so they wouldn't allow maybe 100 people at max can come into a venue. You know, the last thing that will happen is international mode of travel. That will probably be the last phase that they will allow. So yeah, I agree totally with Reuben. Pick up some new skills, offer to do stuff that you don't normally do, just to keep it going until things until we have a clearer path of what's ahead of us. Keep an eye out also for grants and funds which are being offered to the arts industry. Talk to people, get in touch with arts groups and arts bodies and stuff like that, because I think right about now the arts industry is getting some some stimulus packages as opposed to the earlier ones. So you should look out for some of that. And then yes, pick up some new skills. Now's the best time to do that.
Good, good. Jeffrey, I see you unmuted there.
Hi.
Hi.
Is this my turn? Yeah.
Of course.
Yes. Wow. It's a heavy question. It's a difficult question because I know we need to all be positive and stuff because but I do have to kind of take this opportunity to say that this is a very, very bad time for us, and I think especially for my kind of work. And so I was just saying that, you know, two things that's very important for me in terms of work. Well, actually not work, you know, work is my life. So my life, if you can say it, is one thing is all my life I've done live performance. I'm a live sound engineer, if you can call it, or a theater designer, if you can call it. So I hardly do any studio-based work. So live performance, theater is very important, and you know what COVID did to that. And the next thing is traveling. I travel a lot for my work as well, and we all also know what COVID did to that. So this is a very, difficult time. So I agree with all my fellow panelists in terms of what everybody should try. I am actually using this time to maybe rehearse for retirement. Yes. Yeah, I think that will be, maybe it's the world trying to tell me to do something. No, I'm just joking. So, but resources are plenty around, you know, like for example, this kind of opportunity, you know, how often we can have this opportunity. So actually to, you know, I meet up regularly with Justin, Reuben, and so on. You know, when we are all busy, we can't even have a drink session, you know, in a year, you know, like 365 days, we all can't pick one day, you know. Now we can have webinars and stuff. So again, you know, it's still, I guess, finding opportunities and, you know, making the best out of the situation. But yeah, I am not optimistic about the whole, because I feel the whole life, entertainment, and the whole will never be the same again, if I can say that, because the whole attitude towards, you know, performance space, and you know how, you know, all the venues, in order to make money, have to operate on capacity, and then you add social distancing into that. It's like, you know, like it's like the softer cousin of quarantine, you know, that doesn't really work. So yeah, cousin. So we have the kind of like this whole, you know, the economics aspect of it, but also kind of like it's into the. And then when people are, what my fear is, when people are used to social distancing, then the next time they are used to not kind of like, you know, okay, it's okay, you know, as opposed to when before all this, you know, we all crave going to a large concert, going to a party and stuff. So I don't know, we'll see, but yeah.
So I'll end this on a positive and maybe try to find some comedy here. You say you guys used to get together and chat as peers and whatnot. One of the most interesting things that I've seen over the past week was a sound company that we work with here in the U.S. is now having a industry happy hour once a week, and all of the guys at the sound company are ad hoc playing in a band together, which is quite interesting, to tell the truth. But it's really good and it's entertaining. So I'm wondering, what have you seen that's been the most entertaining approach to staying connected or putting out entertainment in the past few weeks? Because I've seen some creative things. I wonder if you guys have seen something different that just made you sit back and say, that was good.
Singapore just did like 1,000. Singapore just.
What's that?
Oh no, Justin was saying house parties. Yeah.
House parties.
As in the app, yeah, as in the app. Yeah.
The app, the app.
We're not supposed to go.
Yeah, we're not supposed to go there. Okay.
Yeah. I saw this amazing thing that's Singapura. Was it Singapura was done with 1,000 singers and put together as like a, you know, like this the YouTube video or something like that. 1,000 singers from everywhere. It's all synced up and all all singing together. That was amazing. Yeah, I saw that on a webcast that day.
Very nice. Anyone else? Anything that just sticks out in your mind?
I think we have a lot of chefs coming out of this like quarantine thing. Like everybody's been cooking all these good food and posting it on social media, man.
Yeah, I haven't had breakfast yet. Don't make me too hungry.
I bake bread 3 times a week.
Very nice.
Yeah, if it's one thing I learned, right? Singing happy birthday over Zoom is not the best idea ever.
Oh, we do that on our Monday calls with Sennheiser. It's latency is quite the issue.
Yeah.
Reuben, I had nothing to add, but Reuben just reminded me. So I think was with Justin and some of the rest of the guys a few weeks back, and we were trying to assess how bad is the latency of house party, and we all started to click together. That's how geeky we were, and trying to see what is the exactly, you see?
It's a little bit off. Somebody needs to send some time code over this way.
Exactly, it needs to be PTP embedded on Zoom. Yes.
Exactly. Well, everybody, I really want to thank you guys for joining us. Faz and Zoul, thank you for hosting this. Andy and David in the background, all of the guests here, thanks for taking your time and doing this with us. Hopefully we can do it again sometime. But I think it's been enjoyable. I hope the guests who've been watching had a great time. And please check out the Sennheiser.com/webinars where we're doing educational series on RF, mic technique, and things of all of those type of things. And we have one of these coming up at least every Tuesday for a while. So again, thank you for joining the Sound Academy Don't Stop the Education series, and we hope to talk to you all soon. Thank you so much.
team.
Thank you
guys.
See you guys. Thanks
Andy.
everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everybody.